Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, From Data to Delivery, brought to you by FedFIS and DeepTarget. I'm Brenda Pierce with DeepTarget, and I will be your moderator today. We've designed this webinar to be interactive and resemble a whiteboard brainstorming session. At the end, we will have a Q&A session, so you can submit your questions anytime throughout the presentation by typing your questions in the question box at the bottom of your screen. The purpose of today's webinar is to address the challenges of community and relationship-based selling in the new digital world. We address these challenges with database messaging just like the giants, Netflix, Amazon, and Instagram. So now I would like to turn it over to Bobby Button from FedFIS and Tom Litowitz from DeepTarget to give the presentation. Bobby?
Thanks, Brenda, and welcome everyone to the webinar. You know, I was having a few recent conversations with Tom, and, we discussed how knowledge and understanding is really the key to the relationship and to affinity-based selling. And with knowledge, we can really demonstrate that we know you, and we know how to create mutually beneficial relationships. And without knowledge, we're just like a commercial on cable TV, right? We're just noise. Tom, do you agree with that?
Yes, Bobby. First, hello, everybody, and thanks. Yeah, I do agree. It's all about relationships. I've been in sales for longer than I care to remember, and it's all about developing relationships. And I know the community financial institutions and fintechs out there know this because they've created and grown relationships with that relationships as well, with common understanding, knowledge, context, shared trust, shared community experiences. These are all part of building and maintaining relationships. So when a financial institution goes out and they buy a digital platform, it might be a great platform, but what is missing is that context and understanding. So when you open your mobile app, or when your customers or members open their mobile app, what do they see that's different than Chase, Navy Federal, Schwab, fill in the blank? Well, this is the same challenge that the big tech providers faced and resolved. By big tech, just as Brenda said, I'm referring to Netflix, Apple, and Instagram, just to name a couple or a few. So, Bobby, what you do at FedFIS is what we do at DeepTarget. It's the same thing. We use data so that the provider can establish a relationship with that knowledge and context with their prospects and clients moving forward.
Yep, definitely. And I don't think we need to belabor the point, in digital, in the current and even post-pandemic world, digital is the new normal. And, of course, digital has its benefits, efficiencies and cost savings. However, it's not without its challenges.
Yeah, that's right, Bobby. Digital lacks an element of personalization. It's a really cold tool that lacks empathy, community, or even affinity. So when you open your app, do you feel like your financial institution is allied with you? The challenge is for financial institutions is that there's 4,500 downloadable apps in the App Store who can't today display accurate accounts and accurate balances.
Yeah, totally, and frankly, that's kind of why we're here today, right? We realize that the key to affinity is data, but you've probably all heard that before, right? I always hear people say that they have more data than they know what to do with. It's a really common problem. What we want to do is discuss how to use data to get back to community and personalization, to really get back to building relationships, and all within the digital channels.
That's right. The problem is everybody talks the talk, right? If I hear AT&T or Wells Fargo or somebody like that tell me that I'm family, I'm going to scream, "Don't tell me, show me." Talking the talk's easy and cheap, but how does one actually differentiate over the digital channels with personalization, creating an emotional and meaningful context? As someone of a different generation, Bobby, do you feel the same way?
Yes, exactly. It's my relationships, the context, the history, and my data that should allow companies to improve our relationships. And some companies do, the contemporary ones. But so let's talk about, some examples here And these are probably all well-worn examples, but we'll kind of walk through the how, which has really been missing from all the discussions and even the content you see online. And, everyone probably on here today uses Netflix. And kind of as a side note, I bet they really regret using the household level IDs. They've fixed that nowadays by asking who's watching on that interstitial splash page, just a way to keep users engaged by offering, better quality viewing and giving more personalized options. Because users are much less likely to get lost in the millions of shows out there if there is some personalization. So that's kind of what they're doing, is they're using historical data to personalize. And I feel that Netflix, really knows me when I log in. But Netflix has some competition these days with Hulu, YouTube TV, Apple TV. But, I think it's really clear that, Netflix is using their market position to personalize so that you can grow their relationships and keep you going from those competitors. So in the end, I think Netflix's key differentiation is that they know you and what you like. They use that to establish and maintain that affinity we talked about.
Yeah, I think that's a great example, Bobby. I've noticed Netflix now has that splash page here over the last couple of years. And here's a couple of other great examples. Amazon, for example, my Amazon experience, they show personalized information for me, like recommendations based on my browsing history, what they know about me. That includes recently viewed but not purchased, the deal of the day, because they know I'm kind of a sucker for a deal. And then they also have paid advertising from their partners. Recently, I downloaded iOS 14 on my iPhone, and I've noticed that Apple now has this big yellow panel that they're putting on my phone when I swipe left. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to teach me all the great features Apple has put into the phone to keep me more engaged. Why do they do that? It's pretty simple. They know the more I use my iPhone, the more I use the features, the less likely I'm going to go to the Android platform the next time I buy a phone. Then on the far right here, finally, is United Airlines, which I'm a $1 million lifetime platinum flyer on United. And in the last release I downloaded, I noticed that they popped this page up as an interstitial page, also trying to show me all the great features that United has put into their mobile app. And you know what? I know what they're doing, and I think it's okay. They're helping me live my best life. They're helping me be a better customer, and they're cross-selling new features and benefits. And that really is at the heart of personalization and affinity. They're one of my partners.
Yep. Yeah, it's so ubiquitous. It's almost becoming expected. And personally, if it's done correctly, I really welcome it. I really don't mind, the personalization aspects. But, Tom, we kind of broke it down into, 3 key pieces to consider. The first, what I like to say is gather and consolidate all that historical and current information. And the second is to define it in a way that's meaningful, and then define that messaging that makes the user's life, just a little bit better, Tom, to your point. And lastly, and this is the key differentiator, is to drive that informed message through the communication channel, that the customer has chosen to engage in. And Tom, in our conversations, we've realized that we both kind of do the same thing, right? In a sense, it's what you do at DeepTarget, and it's kind of what I do at FedFIS. And it's really what financial institutions need to do with their members, or customers, and clients. So specific to FedFIS, we've captured and compiled, decades of data on, every bank and credit union. And this is data that can be used by you to define success, best practices. You can ask yourself, where have we performed well in the market? Where should we apply additional focus? Or maybe, what are my company's personal success factors by looking at this data? Fintech vendors use our data to define their ICP. That's what we call ideal customer profile. And then find all the banks and credit unions that match or that fit. It's a much better alternative than just blast marketing, the entire country of 10,000 plus financial institutions. So kind of, for example, we can find all the institutions the fintech vendors already integrated to, maybe find all the institutions that are using a distribution partner of the vendor already, or maybe it's financial institutions that they can really provide a compelling ROI to. So we can really define targets that have a need for the vendor's products based on their technology stack, KPIs, growth, and propensity to buy. We have a pretty cool little score that we call Innovative Bank Score. But better yet, by knowing the financial institution before reaching out, the salesperson can sell their benefits, not features, and that's a big one. Tom, you and I talk a lot about that. So selling benefits can only be done if you know the institution and their needs. This is way more efficient and effective and increases that pipeline velocity if you're a fintech. So FedFIS, again, similar to DeepTarget, really gives you the power to personalize in order to create affinity and growth. Tom, how does DeepTarget use data to support this concept of, call it informed sales?
I like it, Bobby. I think you're exactly right. I mean, if you're going to try to sell to somebody, you need to show and demonstrate that you know what challenges are in front of them, and that means you need to know a lot about them. So like you, DeepTarget uses data to establish what we know, that we understand your challenges and that we can help. So we advocate the same knowledge-based sales path that you are, Bobby. We provide those same tools then to the financial institution so that they can do the same thing to their customers and members and establish that we know you. We follow the same path that you just described and that we've just shown with Netflix, Apple, Amazon, Google, you name them. They've solved this problem in these digital channels, and that's what we're all aiming to do now, especially in this post-pandemic era. I know everyone gets tired of hearing those examples, but those are the ones that work. So our products allow the financial institution to use years of information that drives through their digital channels. And as you said, Bobby, that's the key differentiator, driving it through the channels. We're hearing, from financial institutions today that 80% or more of their impressions are now via the digital channels, mobile, online, web, email. If we're missing 80% of our impressions to create a relationship, what are we doing? How could we possibly succeed in that environment? The other thing is this also allows us to measure. So we can measure, measurement, has always been a challenge for financial institutions and for marketers specifically and like forever. We know the art of marketing, but we've never done really well with the science. So DeepTarget takes these impressions and we use them as company treasure. It means we measure impressions and therefore performance. You've probably never been able to do this before, but not only that, we can allocate the impressions by the company's strategic objectives. If you have too many deposits, for example, you can alter the number of impressions from deposit offers and features, and you can change those to more loan-oriented products and services. So what we do at DeepTarget is we put our products at the nexus between you, your members, and your customers. So, of course, my phone would ring as I'm in the middle of this, right? And in the management system, better yet. So then we target those members and customers by using lists, rules, and applying predictive analytics and machine learning. In this way, we create a stack of messages or offers that we want to convey to the end user inside that digital channel. And that's the missing link. We deliver it informed messages inside the digital channel. Our president, Joe Homan, likes to talk about social media and their use of something called My Story. And you pointed this out earlier, Bobby, with Netflix. By asking who's watching, they're creating what is my story? What of the millions of titles that are out there might I want to see? So the person doesn't get lost in all the information and it creates a better experience. So you'll see this not only in Netflix, but also Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat. For example, LinkedIn just deployed My Stories in the USA this fall. So really, it's just another way to personalize and classify information and make what is pertinent to that user, but it's got to be done with knowledge. So if you still don't get what My Story is, just ask the closest 15-year-old and they'll give you an earful as to how they use My Stories in Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, and so on and so forth. So at the bottom line, though, is we're using our knowledge or your knowledge to create a better customer experience and to improve that relationship and that opportunity.
I love it. That's awesome. And I totally get it, right? You're applying Netflix and Amazon principles to banking. And So DeepTarget really uses data and informs delivery to create that social media like my story, like you just mentioned on Twitter and Instagram. And that really makes sure banking products and services are personalized to each individual user.
That's right. You got it, Bobby. This way, we walk the walk of community, of partnership, of affinity by using personalization and by demonstrating that we understand the end user and what are their life cycle needs, and that we're a worthy partner because we know them, we have context, and we can make their lives just a little bit better. This can also be used to onboard, promote charities, drive deeper engagement, and sell services and products. When the world has been turned upside down, increased financial literacy yet is another greatly needed and appreciated tool that we can push out through the digital channels. Bobby, do you feel the same way at FedFIS?
Yep, absolutely. And I can share a couple different success stories on both the bank and the fintech vendor side. So on the bank side, something that's top of mind for me, we were approached by they were probably $10 billion plus bank, and they called us and said they had spent a year evaluating 30 different vendors for just one particular need, then narrowed that 30 down to 3. And we were able to validate who those 3 vendors were in 30 minutes just by looking at our database. And we looked at peer groups and the bank's 5 years plans and took that into consideration. We also compared that bank to peer groups in mobile banking. We looked at cores and the rest of the technology stack to assure there were live integrations with whatever 3 vendors we selected. And a few months later, that same bank came back to us to help streamline an evaluation for their loan origination system. So, again, we saved that bank a whole lot of time as opposed to a year, 30 vendors, and a bunch of RFPs. Another example is a financial technology company, a fintech. And so in April of last year, they were evaluating furloughs of salespeople, all due to the lack of sales from the pandemic's uncertainty. But we're able to help them refine their messaging, do better targeting, and just overall help them with their go-to-market strategy. And it turns out their product worked better with certain technology stacks and cores that the banks and credit unions were using. So, we turned that ocean into a pond by identifying institutions that were using that particular ideal technology stack, right? This core, this online, this mobile, this payments vendor. But not only that, we were really able to show them banks that actually had some propensity to change vendors. They're actively using other third parties. Also, took into account the bank's health. Are they at risk of acquisition? Are they growing? Are they healthy? But in the end, we helped them close more deals in 2020 and kept their sales team intact. So just a couple that I'd like to share. And Tom, do you have any examples?
Yeah, I sure do, Bobby. Thanks for that. Brenda, if you could make me presenter, maybe a picture's worth 1,000 words. I'll just go ahead and present my screen here and do a little demo. So hopefully everybody should now see, kind of what we feel is a mock-up of your average financial institution mobile banking app. One of the things you might see is a little bit unique is at the bottom, we have these banners rotating through. I just have 2 of them right now. One says experience your financial story, which is something we just talked about. The other one is skip the line, save time. These are also powered by the DeepTarget digital experience platform and specialized or targeted towards the individual user. But the other way to do that, and I'm going to depress the experience your financial story, up pops something we call 3D Storyteller. This is really kind of a cool thing. I don't know of anything or anybody who provides anything like this. You can kind of dance with this thing a little bit. You can make it bounce and kind of giggle and kind of have some fun with the video of it. But what I want to point out is inside that blue square that's the picture frame, right? So we provide the technology in the picture frame, and the financial institution would then provide the content or the picture inside that targeted towards the individual user. So if I signed off of this persona, and I'm signed on as Jacob here, if I signed off as Jacob and I signed on to somebody else, you might get a totally different stack of messages. So it's important that you understand that the content is data-driven by the personalization. And 3D Storyteller is just one of several presentation tools. You can use 3D Storyteller, you can use banners, you can use emails or whatever. And then we tie the pop-up of 3D Storyteller to some other action, whether you want it to be interstitial, have it pop up for a first-time user, have it pop up for somebody who just downloaded the latest release, or whether you want to make it discoverable, meaning you want them to click on a banner or a menu that says My Financial Story. So let's go through a couple examples here. This particular fictional financial institution named Spotlight Federal is introducing Zelle soon, and we want to have a teaser out there, and we want to introduce the fact that Zelle is the most secure way to move money. If I swipe up or click on that, I'm taking you to a Zelle page, or you could take it to any URL, really any link or deep link. In this case, I'm taking it to the Zelle website. And in the upper left-hand corner, you can see I can go back to Spotlight. Kind of works the way Twitter would work if you go look at an article on Twitter. Here's one where we're trying to draw the user into engaging with us, right? So we're saying, hey, it's a survey, your voice matters. It's a great way to get end users to start engaging. As you probably know, in sales and marketing, the hardest thing to do is to get somebody talking to you. If they just start talking to you, you've got a good shot of having a meaningful conversation and actually even selling or upgrading them into something. So this is very, very important. And if they swipe up, we're taking them to a Survey Monkey to talk about some kind of a survey. By the way, you also might learn something, right? You know, if you buy data from FedFIS and find out for whatever reason you're not getting the mobile remote deposit capture penetration of peer group financial institutions, you can put a survey out there and find out why. You know, why guess? Actually ask, right? The next one here is something I really like. We can also attach videos, which are really eye-catching and compelling. And of course, we can swipe up or click on these to take these to a URL. Here's one where the financial institution has done an analysis on the user. And in this case, again, it's Jacob. And we've noticed for some reason, Jacob isn't using bill pay or e-statements or mobile remote deposit capture. And at any time, I can click on this and escort you right over to that feature, right to bill pay. So we can kind of escort or hand carry Jacob right over to bill pay and teach him how to use bill pay before we lose his attention. This one is a webinar. I talked about financial literacy being something that's really good. You can reach out and try to have communications with customers or members that might be struggling or whose financial situations changed in the latest pandemic, or just for first-time home buyers. And of course, here's one that I like a lot because it's personalized to say Jacob. It's personalized to tell Jacob that he's pre-approved, and it's personalized to tell him that he'll save $484.75 by enacting that consolidation loan, and he is pre-approved. So if I swipe up, interestingly enough, it takes me right to the application, and it pushes all that information over. So Jacob doesn't even have to fill it in. All Jacob has to do is hit submit, and he's good to go. So with that, Brenda, I'm going to turn it back over to you. Excellent. Just like downtown here. So thanks, Brenda. I hope everyone enjoyed my short little demonstration here. The first goal that I wanted to talk about that we have here is try to establish affinity. Should be on slide 13. There you go, Brenda. The first goal is to try to establish affinity with smart banners and 3D Storyteller. It's kind of like a feature I showed you. We do this by, doing local charities, asking for their, asking them to take a survey, talking to them about an alert, something specific to them and their geographic location that would be really, really good, and tell them that we're on their team and we're trying to help them out. The next goal is to drive additional end user engagement. So we need to make sure that the user knows the value add features that we've spent a lot of time and work on deploying. It promotes a partnership between the user and the company, and it also increases engagement and happiness by the end user. I showed you earlier that United Airlines does that, Apple does that, for example. So we use now this increased affinity and these increased personalizations to do the last thing, and that is to try to cross and upsell when the timing is right. So, in this way, you're not trying to sell retirement products, for example, to someone who's starting out in their first job out of high school or college. It means something to them. It has affinity, it has an emotional attachment. So it resonates with them, and that's the most important thing. So now we can also measure the effectiveness to make sure we are on point. We have something called a data API, which measures usage in real time or near real time. And what that does is A/B testing. So if I take a static panel, for example, and I add video to make it more compelling, I can sit back and watch in real-time mode the usage of that to see if my change actually increased or decreased my effectiveness and is helping out my end users. What's really cool is we're starting to see increased click-through rates by 7 to 10 times of what we saw before using only banners. And we meet and exceed the KPI by double or even more than double. And the return on investment here is almost too good to be true. So, Bobby, you talked about success stories a little bit ago. Let me talk about a little bit of our success stories. And I think this is really cool. You can read the screens just as I can, but the one I really like is 4 of our credit unions won MAC awards. So MAC awards, if you're not familiar with it, is the Marketing Association for Credit Unions. And a couple of these users were less than 100 million in assets, which is really cool. Talk about being able to play with the big organizations out there, right? So what this means to me is our products scale. They're easy to administer, and they're good for everybody. But I really see now that our time's kind of coming to a close. Maybe we can use the remaining time, Brenda, for questions.
Yes. Okay. Let me see. We do have just a few questions. Okay. The first question. I like the demo. Thank you. Will it work in online banking and for small businesses?
That's a great question.
Tom, I think
yeah, I think that's great. I sometimes get carried away demonstrating mobile because I think the video of it is more compelling. Yes, it'll work for online banking. It'll work off of your web site. It'll work in really anywhere you want to put it with a little bit of integration work. And yes, it'll work for small businesses. As I said, the framework, we provide the framework and the technology, the enabling technology. You provide the content. So if the target market end user is a small business, we can provide assistance and guidance for that small business, as well as alerts and cross-sells and upsells.
Okay. And another one for you, Tom, is how long does it take to get installed?
Another great question. So the issue there is whether we're already integrated with the digital platform. We're integrated with several providers that have thousands of implementations out there. If we're already integrated, really it's about a week, maybe 2 weeks to get it implemented. The actual time with the financial institution is about a day. The biggest challenge is getting the exchange of data down in a secure mode. That's the long pull in the tent, if you will. If you're not already integrated, it could take about a couple of months. The good news is that the providers have been very open to us with the new openness and open APIs. I think everyone's realized we need to be nimble and fast to get to market very, very quickly. So we've encountered really very little resistance. And if you use a digital platform we're not already integrated into, it's really a simple task, and I would be willing to bet that the provider would not resist at all. As a matter of fact, would endorse it because they don't have anything that competes with it.
Okay. We have time just for maybe one more question. And this will go to you, Bobby. How do I access FedFIS vendor stack data?
Oh, good question. So yeah, we have a couple different delivery methods, really just depending on your need. If you're a bank and credit union, or maybe you're a fintech vendor, we have an online system that you can really do customized reporting on. We have data feeds, charts and graphs for visuals. So I can show you all the options and really prescribe one to fit your needs, depending on what you're trying to solve for. But I think in a second we'll share our contact information, so feel free to reach out to me directly.
Okay, and one just came in. Take this one real quick. Does FedFIS work with both banks and credit unions?
Yeah. Another good question. So yeah, on the data side, we capture data on both banks and credit unions, all U.S. institutions. But we have credit union customers, bank customers, and even some corporate credit union customers. We do have an innovative bank conference each year. That's typically just for banks, just due to what they're able to do with fintech sponsorships and their banking charter. But in short, yeah, we definitely work with credit unions.
Yep, Luke and Buck,
great.
Texas, Bobby. I hope you'll be there next year.
Yep, the old Willie Nelson song.
Okay, great. Well, we appreciate your time today. We are out of time. FedFIS and DeepTarget would like to thank you. Please feel free to reach out to either Bobby or Tom, and the contact information is on your screen right now. After you leave, there will be a survey that comes up. We do ask, if you don't mind, please take our survey. And with this, we thank you for joining our webinar from Data to Delivery. We look forward to talking to you. Please reach out to Bobby and Tom, and we hope you have a great day. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.